This video is sponsored by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform to build beautiful websites with zero website building experience.
Welcome to our workshop tour! If you've seen any of our previous videos, you may have noticed we've got quite a small space, especially considering that there's two of us.
For that exact reason, in a couple of weeks' time, we're actually moving over to a brand new shop, which is going to be much bigger and hopefully a bit more headroom.
So before we move, we thought this would be a perfect opportunity to show you around the space that we've been working in for the last 3.5 years.
So as part of this shop tour, we're going to show you our main workshop, recycled plastic studio, and a couple of storage spaces we use as well.
Should we get into it?
Let's do it.
Let's go. This is so small in here. This is why we're moving. So first up, we're going to show you around the main workshop. So this is a single 15 by 9 foot garage around the back of Matt's house, which we've converted into a fully functional workshop. To do this, first we insulated the roof, then we clad the walls so we could hang all of our tools up, we laid down a new floor, and then we installed some nice new barn doors. When we first started out, we had very little budget available for the conversion, so we did the whole thing using scrap OSB, some old chipboard flooring and pallet wood.
First up is our table saw. This is a Kity 619, which we bought second-hand on eBay. We've got this butted up right against the side wall and near the front doors, and that way, if we're ever ripping anything really long, we can open them up and it gives us loads more room. We've also tried to make the most of the space underneath the side wing of the table saw. So here we've got the 50-litre compressor. We've also got our crosscut sled, which is great for cutting smaller pieces when we need it. So right in the middle of the shop, we have our workbench, which is pretty much the most important thing we have because we use it on every single project. It's 700mm wide and 1600mm long, and we made the top of this out of laminated strips of pallet wood and plywood. The top sits on a super sturdy base made of solid beech, but the most important thing about this workbench is that we've got it mounted up on wheels. So we use these casters from Rockler, and we found these are really handy as when you're done moving it around, you can drop them back out of the way and it sits on the ground nice and solid. Whilst I'm down here, I might as well show you what we use the space underneath our workbench for. Along the side here, we've got what's called our speed rail, and this is where we keep our drills, our glue gun, and our angle grinders. It's really handy for quick storage and being able to chuck things back in their space when you're done with them. We've also got a video on how we made this a little while back. We'll pop a link in the description and a card up top for you. On this side of the workbench, we've got access to some of our larger power tools that we don't use every time we're in the workshop, but we do want to be able to get to them when we do need them. So under here, we've got our Triton thicknesser and surface planer. We've also got a scroll saw, as well as a strip sounder and a battery-powered circular saw. We also utilise both ends of our workbench. On this side, we've got a large woodworking vise, which gets tons of use. We also have a metalworking vise bolted to an adapter plate, which we can drop in here if we ever need to use that. Let's show you the other side.
All right.
Come on. On this side, we have our flip-up router table. This we designed because we found we needed a router table, but we didn't really have any space for one. So this one just bolts to the end of our workbench, flips up whenever we need it, and it's held in place with a couple of right angle brackets. We made a video on this a little while back if you did want to check that one out. So that's everything in the middle of the workshop covered, and now we're going to show you what's around the edges. So these panels are the back of our workshop doors, and on this side we use it for some of our stickers from makers that we've made friends with from all around the world. We also use this for some extra storage. We've got some push sticks for the table saw here, as well as some clamps, but what we use this mostly for is our workshop whiteboard. We use this all the time on every project for notes, sketches, or like we're doing right now, to help us remember what to shoot for this video. Above and next to the whiteboard, we've got our favourite part of the workshop, which is our wall of awesome. Every one of our patrons gets their name added to the wall, and we also do a custom dance that we put up on our Instagram stories to say thank you. Last thing to show you on this wall is our button, which we hit whenever we nail something first time. Safe to say this doesn't get used very much. I'm pretty sure the battery's going to last forever.
Now we're going to take you down the left-hand side of our shop. The first thing we've got is this floor-to-ceiling shelving unit. This stores a load of things like stationery and PPE, and it also has a charging station to keep all of our batteries fully charged. This is also where we keep all of our camera gear. Obviously we're using quite a lot of it right now, which is why the shelf is looking pretty empty. In terms of the gear that we use to film all of our videos, the camera that we use is a Panasonic Lumix G7. We've got a hefty Manfrotto tripod with a variable friction arm. We've got a Shure VP83 shotgun mic sat on top of the camera, and a DJI Ronin SC gimbal for all those nice panning shots. For lighting, we have a pair of newer 40-watt LED panels. These are both mounted on their own tripods, but wherever we can, we've mounted all these different fixing points on the ceiling around the workshop, as this saves on a load of floor space and it means we can get rid of those tripods. We also made all of the general lighting we have in the workshop using LED strips and Coraflute roof panels, which we sanded a little bit to give a frosted look. To make things nice and easy for you, we'll list all of our gear with the model numbers in the description. Continuing down the left-hand side of the workshop, we are starting off with our bandsaw, which is mounted up on casters. We've then got a series of benchtop power tools, starting with our disc sander, our spindle sander, and then the belt grinder at the end. So one of the main solutions we have for working in such a small space is to use every single inch of wall space to display all of our key tools so they're out on show rather than tucked away in a drawer where we might forget about them. To do this, we use a series of either bespoke mounts or these magnetic strips, as it makes it much easier to keep everything organised if everything has its own designated spot on the wall. So we've got a shelf underneath that bench which houses the vast majority of our portable power tools, as well as things like drill bits and jigs. Underneath that, we've got a series of 3 cupboards which hold things that we use far less often, like welding and polishing gear.
Before we show you around the rest of the workshop, we want to take a minute to tell you about the sponsor of this video, Squarespace. We are so happy to be working with Squarespace because they are the website building platform that we chose when we launched brothersmake.com just about a year ago. One of the key reasons that we chose Squarespace to build our website was the presentation. As content creators, we always want our video and our images to look as good as they possibly can. Squarespace's customizable galleries and beautiful templates are super easy to use, and you can really quickly create pages that look like they took forever to build. We have absolutely no website building experience whatsoever, but we found using Squarespace very intuitive and really easy to use. One of the most active pages on our website is our online store, and we thought this might be the trickiest one to set up, but again, Squarespace made it really easy to design a store that works for us. If you're looking at setting up a website soon, we could not recommend Squarespace enough. We set ours up just about a year ago and we've never looked back. Plus, if you head to squarespace.com/brothersmake, you'll save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain using the code brothersmake. A huge thank you to Squarespace for helping us build our dream website and for sponsoring this video. So now I'm sat at the very end of the workshop, right opposite the front doors, and this is probably the area that's had the most different iterations since we've been in the workshop. We used to have a whole miter saw station right at the end here, but we found it took up so much space and we didn't use it enough for it to be warranted. So what we've settled on is to have some scrap wood storage behind me in the corner. We've got a shelf up the top for some screw storage, nails, router bits and stuff like that. Up in the other corner, we've got some spray paint, some glues and some other finishes that we might need on a fairly regular basis. What we found super helpful in this section is to utilise these metal drawers which have loads of smaller sections in, and that way we can keep everything much more organised. We have stuff like dowels, screws, nails, older tools, but the key here is to keep everything labelled so that we can get it whenever we need it. So the top surface of those metal drawers is another opportunity for a little bit of worktop, so we've put one there, added a little vise on the side, and this is where we keep our Triton Whetstone grinder to keep all our tools nice and sharp. Our main tool on this side of the workshop is our floor standing pillar drill, and this is tucked away in the corner, which works absolutely fine for anything small scale. If we do need to drill anything bigger, it's fairly easy to pull out into the middle of the room. Next to the pillar drill is our dust collector, and this is piped solely to our table saw, piped all the way down the right hand side. We've also got a second dust extractor, which is underneath the bench on the left hand side, and that's plumbed into all of our benchtop sanders. We can also swap the bag out on that one, so that if we're just working with recycled plastic, we can make sure we can reuse all of those shavings in another project. Another handy thing that we found is to use these remote switches. Both of our extractors are hooked up to these, so if we're down by the table saw at the other end, we can flick these on at the touch of a button.
So down the right hand side of the workshop, we've got space for clamps, 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 and more clamps. Because as everyone knows, you can never have too many clamps. We've built bespoke mounts for all of these so that they can be neatly tidied away when we're not using them. Whew. So now we've done a full lap of the workshop, we're in our final corner with our sanding storage rack. This holds everything that we need for sanding, including sponges, discs, a paper dispenser, and all of our Triton sanders. If you want to see how we made this, we've got a video over on Triton's channel, which we'll pop a link to in the description.
Whilst our workshop isn't the biggest, especially for two of us, we found that there are 3 main tips that we're going to give you if you're trying to make the most of a small space. Number 1, make it modular. We've put all of our big things on wheels, such as our bench, our table saw, and our bandsaw. Number 2, everything has a place. Whether it's a big piece of machinery or a tiny little square, everything in our workshop has a home to go back to. This is the key to keeping everything organised and stops us descending into utter chaos. And number 3, keep it on show. We use our wall space for our most popular tools because anything that gets put in a cupboard or a drawer tends to get forgotten about and you'll end up never using it. So after 2 years of solely working in this workshop, we started to focus our videos around recycled plastic, and the more we did that, we kind of figured it would be great if that had its own space.
So around the back of the workshop we actually have a second outbuilding which used to be Matt's games room. Pretty much use it for poker nights and video games. But in the end the plastic had to take priority, so we kicked out all of the video games, it was sad, and we made it into a recycling plastic studio.
So this space is about 2/3 the size of the other workshop, so it's even smaller, plus we have other stuff we have to store in here, so not a huge amount of space, but we have made it work. This was already here before we bought the house, and it was originally designed as an outdoor office, so not really perfect for a workshop setup, but it does work okay for what we need. So first up, and what we mainly use this space for, is our machinery for recycling plastic. All of our machines come from Plasticpreneur. This is their shredder, this is their injection moulder, and tucked away behind me in the corner is the extrusion machine. The reason we went for Plasticpreneur machines is that they're all based on single phase, so they run off the power we already have at home. They're also super portable, they're all on wheels, and they can be tucked away where we don't need them, which is absolutely perfect for this small space. So just behind the machines here are our storage lockers, and we use these for machine parts, we use these for moulds, extra finishes and spray paint from the workshop that we haven't got space for in there. And just next to the lockers we have our original plastic storage made from 2-litre bottles, and we keep all of our lids in there just before we're ready to use them. And underneath we've got our lathe, which we use for pen toning. So just like in our other workshop, the Workbench is kind of the centre of the workspace. We use this for every project that we film and every product that we make as well. So it's really simple to make, just out of some 2x3s and some sheets of OSB. We even put some little drawers in there for extra storage. We use the space underneath the Workbench for even more storage. We've got our compressor for demoulding products. We've got our extractor, and that only gets used for HDPE. And we've also got our bottle jack press, which you saw us make in an old video. Lastly, on this side, right next to the Workbench, we've got these 2 big storage racks. These hold our boxes of shredded recycled plastic, as well as tools such as our oven, panini presses and others. We also have our products here that are ready made and waiting to be sold.
So those are our 2 main shop spaces. However, the more we've grown, the more we've realised we need space for additional storage. This is to account for things like lesser used tools, materials, but mainly plastic that's waiting to be recycled. We act as a donation point in our local area, so we get absolutely tons of the stuff. So let's quickly show you around a couple of our storage solutions we've got outside.
We found that these little sheds are really handy for squeezing in extra storage into little spaces you might have around the garden. About a year ago, when we were literally overflowing in plastic donations, we built this large shed on the driveway. It's 3 meters long and nice and tall, so it's got loads of room for plastic, as well as other materials we might have access to, and our market stall setup. And even with all of that, we still don't have enough space for all the plastic, so we've got these little racks stacked up outside where plastic stays until it needs to be washed and processed. Also, a big shout out to all our friends and family that are currently storing things for us, such as even more plastic, our recycle wagon and our ballista. We should probably stop building giant things. Okay, since we filmed everything you just watched, Johnny's now stuck at home ill, currently editing this video. So it looks like I'm gonna have to finish this one up by myself. So now you've seen how we fit all of our stuff into what is a pretty small space. If you're specifically looking to start your own recycled plastic workspace, then we recommend checking out the Precious Plastic website. On there they've got loads of information freely available, such as starter kits, business plans, and loads of other bits about how you can set up your own recycling business from home. We'll pop a link down below in the description for you to check out. And whilst this space has been amazing over the past 3.5 years, we've definitely outgrown it, and I think it's time to find somewhere a little bit bigger. So over the next few weeks, we're actually going to be moving into a brand new space, which is about 3 times the size of our current workshop, plus we get a 40-foot shipping container to store loads of stuff in as well. It's mostly going to be full of plastic. Once we're in and all set up, we'll do another tour to show you our brand new space. But for now, it's time to say goodbye to the workshop that's seen us through since we started. A huge thank you to all of you that have supported us throughout the years. It's you guys watching the videos that have allowed us to grow and be able to move into this brand new space. Thank you so much, we love you all. And of course, a very special mention to all of our incredible patrons. It's actually the support from these guys that's going to be paying the majority of the rent on the new shop. You're all utter legends. See you on the next one, guys.